I'm standing here at the playing fields which belong to the church, and sun shining on a lovely day like this, but unfortunately many are still self-isolating and can't just wander around freely. I know it's been on the radio over the week. Should this be eased, or is there going to be any change in the future to having to stay at home? And so we might say there's an invisible wall around some people's homes. You just can't go in, and that's for health reasons. We've found the same here in our church area. We have had to close the gates. We have the buildings closed, and folks can't come in and just move across here where our youth organisations were often playing and involved. Sadly, we have had to close, like every other church and public body, for the safety of people. And we too just wait and long for the day when we can open up everything again. It doesn't sit well with our human natures, and certainly as a Christian community here, it doesn't fit easily into what we want to do. We want things to be open, that we can be out and others can come in. We have to sometimes, as I say, create invisible or even physical walls to stop folks coming in. I want to show you a fence that I put up. My father and I put this up 25 years ago, as you can see here. If you're not used to the countryside, it's a sheep wire, usually to stop sheep breaking out. When I put it up, some folks ask me, well, when you've come to Comber Manse, are you now going to keep a flock of sheep or lambs? Is that why the sheep wire's going all around? And my answer was, no, it's not. I have a different type of flock here, but I'm not going for the woolly variety as well. But this fence went up not to keep people out, by the way. This was to keep some people in. When we came, our family were young. Our youngest hadn't even started primary school, and he would have a habit of wandering and exploring. We lived in the country before, and now with the road being close, we said, what do we do to keep him in? Because this was one of the gardens attached to the manse, and they had a free range. So the fence went up to keep someone in. Fences also have that purpose. 1989, I think it was November, a really big fence came down. That was the Berlin Wall. And it had been built to keep people in. If you remember, or you look back in history to that time with the Soviet bloc, the wall was built and East Germans couldn't cross over to the west. And it symbolized a barrier, almost suggesting there are people behind it who are kept in. It's not just to keep others out. Walls can do that. Around Easter time in April, I was watching a program on television. I think it was a Sunday afternoon, and it was focusing on some of the customs and some of the religious and Christian aspects to Easter in England. And there was one woman who had a gospel choir, and she had been interviewed, and then she went back home to interview her mother in London. Her mother came from Jamaica at a time around the 50s and 60s when there was quite a movement of folks from Jamaica into England. She interviewed her mother and said, look, I really thank you for the Christian upbringing you gave me, and it influenced me, and here I am leading a gospel choir today. And in conversation with her mother for the camera, her mother then related how she had come from Jamaica into London. One of the first things she did when she got somewhere to live was to find a local church. And she said, I went to the local church and I was made most welcome. And as someone who had a Christian faith, then she was back again the next Sunday. And I think she said after 2 or 3 Sundays, someone in the church said to her, it's good to see you, but maybe don't come just as often. That really puzzled her. Why would you not want me as a Christian to keep coming? And she got the impression, well, that might disturb us. We are settled here in our ways and who belongs. And she added, I never went back. But thankfully, I joined another church where I was welcome. And I'm still there today. And she said to her daughter, and you grew up there. And then the camera focused into that congregation. You see, we can build invisible walls to keep ourselves in, because we don't want to get disturbed in life. I want to finish by just drawing to Jesus Christ, the Apostle Paul, who wrote in the New Testament and in 2 books in the Bible in the New Testament, Ephesians and Galatians. He talks about a wall between us and God. It's invisible. He calls it a dividing wall. And when Jesus died on the cross, he did something. He broke down that wall where sometimes we had built it around ourselves even to keep God out so that he wouldn't interfere in life. But that wall has collapsed in the cross. And as we come to believe in Jesus and trust in what he did in the cross and in the resurrection, we find we have direct access to God. The barrier is down. But also, Paul said, and between one another. Because in those days, the Jew and the Gentile, or the Jew and non-Jew, they had a wall between them. And as it were, some kept others out. God said in the cross, no, you don't do that. There's no status between one side and another side, between one nation and another nation, and you do not look down on anyone, because the wall's away. In the cross, there is no division between one and the other, for all are equal before God in their rights before him. And that wall of division should be away if you follow Jesus. The virus has been a great leveller in a very sad sense, because we find all the things we built up and that we may be built to keep others out or ourselves in, they're all away. We see ourselves as human beings facing illness, potential death. And for me, as a Christian, the big thing is the cross and the resurrection of Jesus, because then we have direct access to him through faith, and we can look on one another very differently. So, my son's now a lot older, and it's beginning to come down. You can't keep them in. Self-isolation hopefully will soon begin to disappear. These gates and doors, we pray, will be open more fully and freely as a Christian church like many others, and we will meet again. I hope when we do, we'll not forget about the Bible's view on a wall coming down, enabling us to come to God through Jesus on the cross, and telling us to put it into practice when we look at each other and never looking down on one another.